Following the resignation of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, Bangladesh has experienced an alarming increase in violence, which has largely targeted its minority Hindu population. Well, the Bangladesh Hindu Buddhist Christian Unity Council has reported that almost 300 Hindu homes and businesses have been vandalized. There is robbery in Hindu homes. Mobs have been burning temples to an extent that people have started guarding the temples and residential colonies. Amidst all of this, a recent New York Times headline has caused controversy. The original headline, stating Hindus in Bangladesh face revenge attacks after Prime Minister's exit, has received huge backlash from social media users, to which the article replaced the headline and removed the word revenge from it. People have called the headline insensitive, whereas popular media houses like The Guardian, CNN, The Wall Street Journal have distanced itself from this particular coverage. With New York Times labeling revenge attacks on their headlines and foreign media being silent about it, is it a deliberate attempt to avoid a dialogue on the situation of Hindus in Bangladesh and perhaps elsewhere as well, notably Pakistan? We'll talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the show is Ambassador Manju Seth, former diplomat. Also with us on the program is Mr. Pathakrit Pine, geopolitical analyst. Joyita Basu, editor of the Sunday Guardian, also with us on the show. Last but not the least, Surinder Singh Lali, international affairs expert, also joins us on the program. Pathakrit, I'll begin with you. Well, first of all, we'll talk about what this particular newspaper wanted to convey and what they ended up doing. But the fact of the matter is that, it has for once, brought out what Bangladesh and the Islamic government of Bangladesh is all about. It's not only the Hindus, it's the garb with which, they have been operating for a very long time, which has been exposed, Pathakrit. And this is exactly what Bangladesh wanted, and this is what exactly is Bangladesh getting. All the progress, all the outreach, the growth figures that were achieved under Sheikh Hasina are, gone into the dumps, and what remains, is a frail Bangladesh at this point in time, latching on to, the low-hanging fruit, which is, of course, the minorities over there. What do you make of this predicament that exists for the Hindus, even when the government is stable? And secondly, at what point, Pathakrit, does India need to intervene if these Hindus are in danger?
Vinit, I'll take your second question first. I don't know how much India can do anything into it, and neither I think that India has ever done much so far as the Bangladeshi Hindus are concerned. The only thing India can do is to ask them to come over here if they want, but we have often seen that they don't want to come. Of course, Citizenship Amendment Act was enacted for them. Substantial numbers did come in the past, but now they don't want to come. At least they don't seem to be willing to come. Now, if they don't come, then there's a limitation to how much the government of India can do. So far as the Western media is concerned, the Western media always have taken, the initiative for the Save Gaza, Save Syria narratives. But when it comes to Hindus, they have never done it. You can call them selfish, you can call them biased, but part of the onus lies also with us, because we have never been able to create an ecosystem which will speak for Hindus. We have failed in that. So when it comes to something happening to any Muslim anywhere in the world, the entire the Muslim world stands in unison and speaks for them. It doesn't happen for Hindus at all. The Hindus are mostly inward looking. They do not speak for Hindus of Bangladesh or Pakistan. And even if you see that some of them are speaking out, there's a limitation to what can be done. So far as Bangladesh is concerned right now, Bangladesh is totally a lawless entity right now. Whatever happened till the time Sheikh Hasina was there, you can blame Sheikh Hasina's government for that. After her exit, the kind of violence that is going on, the violence is happening on two categories of people. Of course, the minorities are getting targeted. No one can deny that. But at the same time, a large number of Muslims who have been part of Awami League, they are also being targeted. They are being burnt alive. There are people who are being burned, killed, and hanged upside down. I don't think the students are doing it. And if somebody else is doing it, then it seems the army is preferring to stand a mute spectator to that. So it's all good to actually have the euphoria of being able to, throw out, oust an established government. But it is quite something else to have to restore the normalcy in its own place. and then ensuring that there is a smooth functioning of the government. Right now, police is literally non-existent, frankly speaking. And yes, Bangladesh, for a long period of time, if you see the history of independent Bangladesh from 1971 onwards, within a span of 4-5 years after independence, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was assassinated. 5 years down the line, Ziaur Rahman was assassinated. So it has a history of deep-rooted political hatred, ideological hatred, and it happens in a cyclical manner. So I'm not surprised by what is happening. And let me tell you, it's only a matter of 6 months. Whoever forms the government will become extremely unpopular. Given the global scenario, it will be difficult for Bangladesh to sustain the same momentum of economic growth. If that fails, then the radical elements will pound more and have their own share of the pie of the whatever they have done to the Sheikh Hasina government. You know, you have a large number of disparate groups who have come together to form this entity to oust the government. Each of them would want a share of the pie of the government right now. I don't know how much the caretaker government will be able to sort those out. Muhammad Yunus might be a little pro-America. He would want American investments to come in. But there are other radical extremist groups who are extremely anti-America. So how much the American investments will be safe is a question mark. How much Indian investments will be safe is a question mark. And if the investments and the businesses are not safe over there, and if you keep on burning down what is being burned down right now, then where will jobs be created? So I think it will be a total chaos coming in unless the Bangladeshis take control of what is happening. Even if there's an election and BNP comes to power, I'm not sure if the student community which spearheaded this movement will be willing to take, agree to that kind of a election victory for the BNP. So far as the Hindus are concerned, let me be blunt. They have two options. Either they can come to this side and remain secure, relatively more secure. If they continue to be over there, they would continue to face things which are not happening for the first time. Or else they have to develop their own resilience. Not being a martial tribe, they have not been able to save themselves. So it's their choice if they want to continue being over there. And let me tell you, almost the entire Hindu community is a Dalit community in Bangladesh. And you would see all the Dalit champions of India will remain silent when Hindus get killed over there. But there's a limitation to what government of India can do. There's a limitation to what we can do. If they want to come in, there can be some kind of effort being made by government of India to bring them in, give them some kind of a semblance of safety. Beyond that, if anybody is expecting we can go to Bangladesh and save the Hindus, then I think it's good for debate, but in reality, nothing will happen. Back to you.
Joyita, what do you make of the situation? It's an evolving situation, but of course, the first target are the Hindu minorities. Once again, it's important for us to understand when does India come into the picture if these liberties that these people so-called enjoy in Bangladesh continue to be jeopardized?
Well, first of all, I agree totally with Pothikrit when he says that India can do nothing right now. You cannot possibly, because the minute you decide that you will take up the case of Hindu minorities, maybe you can do it in international platforms, maybe you can urge the US to ensure now that their frontman, Muhammad Yunus, is there, that he should do more, but you cannot possibly send tanks in. Because that will be a declaration of war, and for what? I mean, in peacetime, are you going to declare war? Just because, you see, it does not happen like that. So right now, India cannot do anything except putting pressure and lobbying with the right kind of sources. Basically, you have to lobby with the US. Okay, because again, I'm going to say it, everyone knows that Muhammad Yunus is a US frontman, possibly even US deep state frontman. So the only person who can put pressure, the only people who can put pressure on Yunus to make certain that things are not derailed is the US. So we don't have any leverage on him right now, not especially at a time when there is such anti-India propaganda going on in Bangladesh. As for what happens in Bangladesh next, I mean, whatever is happening with the Hindus in Bangladesh primarily, and of course, a lot of these Awami League people also, I mean, they are being slaughtered. They are being butchered. It's much worse than what is happening, the attacks on the temples. These are buildings or on their homes. I mean, but then people are being slaughtered and butchered. I have got photos from people who live not in Bangladesh, now they have migrated to other countries. They are sending me photos, and they are horrific photos. I mean, you cannot even show them on TV. You cannot post them on social media because they are gruesome. So what is going on is in Bangladesh is unthinkable. Now it's sad, that is why I'm again going to talk about the US. If the US wants it, it can to a certain extent put a lid on this matter, I would say, or at least put pressure on maybe this Yunus, the gentleman who has come in, and to ensure, to tell the army that be more proactive, because what has happened right now, it seems the army, the police, everybody has gone into the barracks. They are not doing anything, they are just letting this Chhatra Shibir of the Jamaat in particular to have a go. But you see, what the mistake this Mr. Yunus is going to make is that there are so many cross currents in Bangladesh itself, that there are these Jamaatis, there are these BNP students unions, there are many of these people who are maybe the so-called progressives, and they are all of them, until now they had this figurehead of I would say authoritarianism in Hasina. So they had come together, but fundamentally, say, the more progressive students, they do not see eye to eye maybe with Jamaat. So, and if you look at Jamaat's history, and if you see at the statements that Jamaat has been giving about Muhammad Yunus, who is considered as anti-Islam, who is considered as a man who, because he was this microloan, microfinance guy. So he is considered as somebody who has been taking interests, which is haram in Islam. So there are so many videos all over social media where these radical mullahs, they are going against Muhammad Yunus hammer and tongs. So you see, what is going to happen is that, and now these Jamaatis, they have tasted blood. They are breaking and they are burning cinema halls in Bangladesh. Who would do something? They are breaking Rabindranath's statue. They are anyway breaking, they have burnt down Sheikh Mujibur's house. So these are the people who do not recognize the independence that Bangladesh got from Pakistan. These are basically Pakistanis. They are ISI front people. I would like to see, what happens now with Yunus. You see, this Yunus on one hand and these radicals on the other, and the US thinks that it can put its puppet there in Dhaka and everything will be all right. It does not understand. I don't think it understands the region well enough to realize that there are, now it's full of contradictions, and there are chances that this whole thing will go up in flames even further.
All right. Ambassador Manju Seth, what's your opinion here? There is obviously, there are a number of parties in Bangladesh at this point in time, and they all are going to be looking at this upheaval or this, unsettled state in Bangladesh as an opportunity, to pursue personal agendas or Islamic agendas or agendas that may harm the minorities in Bangladesh. Of course, India is keeping a close watch, but the fact of the matter is that we also have a porous border with Bangladesh. And this could also turn into an international crisis. They've deputed someone, who perhaps might know Bangladesh like the back of his or her hand, but the fact of the matter is that these are not statesmen. These people don't believe in diplomacy. It's the army. We have seen what the army has done on one side of the country in a place like Pakistan. What happens, if Bangladesh also heads out the Pakistan way? What is India supposed to do? Right now, we've had a two-front war. This could lead to a three-front war. What precautions diplomatically, ma'am, do you think we need to, in fact, ascertain at this point in time?
Yes, it's indeed a very difficult and dangerous development across in Bangladesh for India. From India's point of view, more than 4,000 kilometers of border with Bangladesh that we share, porous border, and this kind of unrest that is continuing. They had said the agenda was reservation, but reservations were sort of put on hold, but even then the agitations continued, the violence continued, and there was this regrouping after a few days with the intent of removing her, and it was all very sudden, and I think that there was some kind of intelligence failure, I think, and and the army and the police failed to gauge it, or they were deliberately not wanting to gauge it. It's a little, difficult to fathom at the moment. And the way things unraveled suddenly, that was, for Bangladesh also, it has not been it's not a good portent. And we can see with all, now what is happening, that they're targeting the Hindus, they're targeting the Awami League leaders. It is something which is beyond what it was meant to be. Just not regime change, not just students protest. It has evolved into something worse. And yes, a very strong, I felt, anti-India sort of atmosphere was visible, in the whole sort of protests, and the way they, have handled it even now. And now with Mr. Yunus coming in, I don't know how effective he's going to be. How of course the army is with him, and the army chief says that we will, stand by, and we're going to. And everybody's calling for peace, but peace has not been restored. And as very rightly said by Joyita, the Islamic elements, the Jamaat-e-Islami elements, their student wing, the others, have all suddenly got a free sort of pass, because there's nobody in control at the moment. And so, or at least doesn't appear that anyone's in control. And they have gone on a killing spree. And naturally, then after, if this continues, people will start coming into India. Not only, Hindus, but also other, Muslims, the Awami League supporters and others will start coming in. And others might also just come along with them. And that was going to be a real security issue for us over a period of time. If too many people come in, across the borders. And of course, our investments, our joint projects, our trade, everything is going to be impacted with this. The only thing that the government of India can do is to be in touch with the authorities there, with the new caretaker government. Though I'm not very certain yet what the caretaker government is going to look like, and how it's going to be governed. And it looks more like that the army will continue to be in control. It looks like, but we don't know yet. And who is going to control it from behind the scenes? That's the second question. Because obviously, I think this whole, the way it evolved so rapidly, the whole protests, and the way it came suddenly to a head, and with the army chief telling the prime minister that you have to go now, 45 minutes, you have to go now, ultimatum given. So in a way, the only plus point I can see in all this is that she was allowed to go. She was allowed, the army facilitated her departure from there. Otherwise, I'm sure she wouldn't be here, wouldn't have survived. Because the way the whole narrative building and the whole of the protesters, the way it was done, I think it was leading up to that, because how they were able to enter the prime minister's residence, there was no one to stop them. There were no barricades. There was no one, and they were looting. There were like a bunch of hooligans let loose, and I think Bangladesh is going to have an unstable situation for some time, and it's going to impact India's security, India's well-being, and of course the well-being of Bangladesh and Bangladesh.
Mr. Lali, your perception of the situation here, what also could be a worry is that third parties at this point in time could take advantage of what's going on in Bangladesh, leverage this to harm us.
Absolutely, Vineet. If you please allow me to open this up and park an alternate point of view also, to which actually Joyita also touched a little bit. I think this is Cold War 2.0 sort of playing out in full swing. Vineet, in South Asia, out of the 9 countries, 4 are of Muslim majority. So the least I say, the better it is. I mean, although we've still not, recognized Afghanistan, the Taliban regime, and Bhutan. Otherwise, most of the other countries out of the 9 are pretty much have more leanings towards China. And why do I say this is Cold War 2.2? Because this is China on one side and the United States of America controlling through, the George Soros and the Elon Musk and the New York Times and various think tanks and financial institutions, lobbies in order for us to become, as I often say, an ally and not a strategic partner. So I have a feeling that this is far more outreaching implications than just Bangladesh. As Ambassador Manju rightly said, a 4,000-kilometer border, and we've spent 8 billion into that country. So imagine of what we have at stake, and the ramifications are not only huge to the point where I think it is not only an intelligence failure within Bangladesh, but for some reason, I think our foreign ministry also needs to look into and see, because end of the day, we are getting surrounded by the not so, happy, hostile people who are, who are more on the side of China. One more point I want to make, Vineet, is that even in these Western economies, there is a very, in these elections, there is one very strong point, which is the immigration. So a lot of this is also going to be a big backlash for us, because Bangladesh is also the factory to the world. So a lot of it is going to also affect not only the geopolitics, but also the economic situation also. For example, if Iran, the way things are panning out, we have a lot of foreign remittances that come from Iran too, and not to mention Iran is also in the global turmoil. So I don't look at it just from the perspective of the 4,000-kilometer border. And, on two occasions, Bangladesh has been very hostile towards us. One was when the Babri structure came down, and the second was, when Mr. Modi had recently visited them, and, they had brought temples down, and anti-Hindu hatred is all over the place. So my concern is a lot more deeper than just which government comes. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed, because if the Awami League is kept out of the interim government, and if the BNP and the Jamaat-e-Islami come, which are absolutely pro-China, I mean, it's probably nobody's guess to comprehend, how we will be surrounded. And when we're looking to be, the fourth largest or the third largest economy, and with such hostile people in our neighborhood, I don't know how much of energy or time or money would we be left with to make us the third or the second largest economy.
And Pathakrit, Mr. Lali is right. Bangladesh was going in the right direction in terms of, their growth and the numbers they were in fact pulling, regardless of the challenges that they have in terms of the political instability that they're so used to seeing. Is that trajectory in peril now, Pathakrit?
It is entirely in peril. I don't think the investors will have too much confidence in the short run, at least, because there is no law and order. There's no police on ground. Secondly, for India, for the next 4-5 years, I think the momentum has to be not just on securing a target of $5 trillion economic mark, but also to protect what you have achieved till date. You need a national border policy which is not existing in India today. You need to deal with the Indo-Bangladesh border with the same stringency as you deal the Indo-Pakistan border. You need to fence the Indo-Nepal border, because a lot of infiltration is happening from there. So if Bangladesh continues its journey down the trajectory, it would try to pull India down as well. You would have a large number of these elements trying to sneak in for better opportunities, because I think as things stand right now, Joyita was very right. On one hand, you have Dr. Yunus, who is absolutely pro-United States. On the other hand, you have these Jamaat groups and other radical extremist groups who are extremely anti-US. So how they would try to work together is a question mark. If things do not become better, and I don't see it is becoming better so soon in Bangladesh, it would have severe ramification for India in the northeast and in elsewhere, and therefore securing our borders on a priority basis at par with which we deal with the Indo-Pakistan border. If we don't do that, forget about the trajectory of Bangladesh or what happens to Bangladesh. We will be under severe challenges so far as security is concerned. Then securing the target of $5 trillion or $10 trillion in the next 1 decade, and to maintain the momentum itself will be a very big challenge. And this is exactly what our adversaries and frenemies want. They want us to be so much tied up on a daily basis with fighting on the borders and other issues that we cannot afford to look beyond and look about, fighting the next quantum leap of growth. So we are in a challenging situation, and I think it's time we speak a little straightforward to the Americans as to what they actually want us from us, because it is becoming too apparent what they're trying to do. And Mr. Lali is very right. It is not about Bangladesh. The ultimate objective is to, create problem for India. It is not just Bangladesh alone. Back to you.
Right. Joyita, before we wrap up, concluding thoughts from you. How volatile is the situation, and what all areas do you think India needs to be working on at this point in time? Because obviously, Sheikh Hasina is in the country. There is a certain element diplomatically as well as internationally attached to that as well.
Well, frankly, Sheikh Hasina is least of our worries right now. Okay, she is there. She will sooner or later will be sent to another country because we cannot afford to keep her here. Number one. What our immediate priority is to secure our borders. Because you see, what is now that these radicals and the Jamaat, now basically now that the ISI has a free hand in Bangladesh, what it will be doing is that it will be opening up all its terrorist, seminaries that they have. Say, my worry is that you see an LOC-like situation developing along the borders of Bangladesh. And you see, that becomes a problem because it is already a very porous border, much more porous than the LOC is, the LOC and international border. So you see, so that is something. How do you secure, for example, the rivers? I mean, so much part of the border along West Bengal and Bangladesh is a riverine border. There are no fences over there. I mean, there are borders, there are tunnels from people from Bangladesh. I mean, right next to Petrapola, I am told, which is the main border crossing. People can just enter. I mean, what is stopping all these terrorists entering from there? So that I think is the immediate priority. You secure your borders.
All right. Thank you everyone for being a part of this conversation.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.